I'm here to talk briefly about why you should care about bicycle tourists, what's the economic potential, and who bicycle tourists are. I'll share an example of what a particularly successful trail in Pennsylvania is doing to attract bicycle tourists. And finally, I'll share some strategies to help communities plan and design to capitalize on bicycle tourism. So why do we care about attracting recreational bicyclists? First, there's a lot of them. 48 million people in the United States bicycle recreationally each year. This significantly impacts the national economy to the tune of almost $100 billion a year and growing. And this year especially, many people have gotten out on bikes or become reacquainted with the joy of cycling, as coronavirus restrictions have limited our options for other pastimes. Pretty much every community across the country has reported seeing an increase in cyclists using their local bike trails. And much like we see in the national trends, the Erie Canalway Trail here in New York continues to become more popular each year. And especially now that it's going to be part of the Empire State Trail that we're all looking so much forward to having at the end of next year, or end of this year. Now, PTNY, we count trail use along the Canalway Trail. In our 2019 Who's on the Trail report, we estimated the total visitation for the Erie Canalway Trail at 3 million visits and an additional 300,000 visits to the Champlain Canalway Trail. Now, this is even higher than the projections for the use of the Empire State Trail had estimated. And so far, the numbers that we've seen for usage this year show even higher use. So it's more popular than we had even estimated. Our full report for 2019 is available at ptny.org/presentation. That's got all of these links that we'll mention and some other resources. Our 2020 report should be available early next year. Now, in order to get long-distance cyclists to stop in and patronize local communities, it's important to know a little bit more about them. And I'm sorry if I break up a little bit here. Who is a bicycle tourist? Well, we've done some research on them and what leads them to spend money on a long-distance trail system. Since 2012, PTNY and the Canal Corporation have recognized those end-to-enders who have traveled the entire length of the Erie Canalway Trail between Albany and Buffalo. Since the start of the recognition program, almost 5,000 travelers have registered, each with their own unique adventure to share. This recognition program has provided us with a snapshot of who could be riding through your community. We've had end-to-enders as young as 6, as old as 89, but most of those who take long-distance trips along the Canalway Trail are between the ages of 50 and 69. And they have money. 45% reported that their household earns more than $100,000 a year. The median group size for end-to-enders last year was 2 people. 89% of the groups contained fewer than 5 people. However, we do have group sizes as large as 21 people. And that's not to mention the 600 or more people who travel the Canalway Trail every July as part of PTNY's Cycle the Erie Canal Bike Tour. It's important to remember how valuable it is to provide an experience worth talking about for these travelers. 37% of those who were end-to-enders said that they heard about the Erie Canalway Trail or the Cycling the Erie Canal Bike Tour through word of mouth or from a past participant. Now, people are willing to travel further and take longer trips if they're traveling to a larger trail system, like the one we're getting from the Empire State Trail. Generally, cyclists will take a trip of more than 300 miles to get to a trail if they're going to take a multi-day trip along the trail, and they generally prefer tours of 3 to 7 days. And while only a small percentage of trail users are vacationers, they account for a disproportionate amount of overall spending, and most of that is on lodging and restaurants. Now, this spending varies considerably. Some end-to-enders reported that they traveled with very minimal spending. Others reported spending $2,500 a day. Now that, of course, includes lodging. And the average amount that individuals spend on any given day is about $230. But based on this average alone, a group of 3 spends almost $700 in a community each day. That's more than $5,000 overall across the corridor during an 8-day trip. Cyclists along the Erie Canalway Trail and on any long-distance trail like to explore. They like the local history, the points of interest in the place. They want to see the identity of the community they're visiting. They like to visit local museums. They seek out souvenirs from their trips and gifts for loved ones at home. More and more, cyclists are looking for places they can capture on social media. You've got to have those Instagram-ready photo locations. Now, having already chosen a slower-paced mode of travel, cyclists are going to take the time to enjoy what they encounter. So the financial implications of cycle tourism at the national, the state, and the local level are pretty evident. But what exactly are trailside communities doing to attract and profit from the growing bicycle tourism market? To answer this question, I want to highlight one trail system and look at some of the strategies the communities along it have pursued. I'm going to note before I begin that many of these strategies we do have in place already along the Erie Canalway Trail. The Delaware and Lehigh is just a trail that's put it all together and it's really doing a great job at it. So the Delaware and Lehigh Trail follows its two namesake rivers in northeastern Pennsylvania. It's a part of 5 regional trail system projects, including the East Coast Greenway. Now, the trail connects travelers with historic sites dating back to the American Revolution and continuing through the canal building and railroading booms of the country's early industrial era. The D&L is touted for its economic impact on local communities, generates nearly $500 million annually. And the 2018 Trail User Survey found that 37% of visitors made trail-related purchases at locally owned stores. The signage along the trail helps orient visitors by letting them know exactly where they are, what's nearby, and how to get where they're going. And the consistency in the design and the attractive and cohesive brand identity results from having a unified set of design standards. Signage directs travelers, welcomes visitors, and offers interpretation for sites. Over 600 signs have been installed across the corridor, and each town you visit has information about the services, actions of that town, with maps to help orient users. But each community also assumes their own identity. Take Jim Thorpe, PA, for example. Their slogan, "The finest of times in the cutest of towns," really speaks to their community's character. And again, I apologize if my video and audio break up a little bit. From designated selfie spots peppered throughout the historic district to 4 major festivals organized by the Jim Thorpe Tourism Agency and a designated Customer Appreciation Day, the town has really embraced their identity as a trail town and a premier destination for leisure tourism and outdoor adventure. The community also uses branding and promotional materials to underscore their history as a unique, well-known center of industrial commerce, tourism, and entertainment. Now, many businesses along the trail cater to cyclists, such as trailside cafes. They do have ample bathrooms and water available along the way. We know both of those are very important to cyclists. The D&L, like the Erie Canalway Trail, administers a bike-friendly business program that highlights local businesses that provide great customer support and cater to the needs of those cyclists who are traveling on the D&L Trail. Now, I'm going to highlight one example of one of their bike-friendly businesses, and that's Diggity Dogs. Located right on the Slatington D&L trailhead, they have a food truck style setup, which allows users to easily access the menu without even the need to dismount from their bicycles, but they do have bike racks nearby just in case. They serve up a wide variety of homemade meals, perfect for fueling up for a day out on the trail or for winding down after a long day out. Now, speaking of bike racks, they're everywhere. Riders can safely lock their bike and grab some breakfast at a local cafe or stop by if they need to at the local bike shop. A lot of bike rack projects are funded through a D&L amenity grant program, which offers small incentive grants for amenities that benefit trail users. Priority is given to landowners that actively participate in the D&L Trail Ownership Council and to current D&L trail-friendly businesses. And one of the best things about the D&L Trail is how easy the trip planning is. Visit the online D&L website to access various tools, including interactive maps, ride guides, an itinerary generator. Now, these services are valuable in attracting distance cyclists, as riders can sometimes be reticent to plan a trip if they don't know where to start or don't know what makes for a good trip. So, what are the key takeaways from that example? 1, to make a good place for bicycling, you need consistent and abundant signage and maps, and you need infrastructure that welcomes and supports cyclists. Together, these resources help orient cyclists and make them feel safe by allowing them to easily access community centers from the trail. Now, physical infrastructure plays a key role as well in connecting bicycle networks. Therefore, designing and planning for cyclists is critical. People always want more signage, and they want it to provide clear, reliable information. The signage that helps the most are things that say that are "You Are Here" signage, locator signs that make amenities easy to find and make it clear how you can get from the trail to the business and then back again. Having street names posted where trails cross roads is a big help to cyclists as well, as they're trying to match what they see in person to what their map or their guide tells them. And having reassurance markers on a trail is important to let cyclists know that they're on the right path and that they haven't missed a turn somewhere. Communities should consider which infrastructure is best suited to meet the needs of their local cyclists and potential cycle tourists. Most bicyclists are looking for places that they can ride safely. They want off-road paths where possible, and they want safe on-road connections where not. They also want safe riding surfaces. Some will only ride on paved surfaces, some are okay with stone dust, or more natural surfaces. But they want them to be free of debris and generally smooth. Now, protected bike lanes are generally the best way to create safe connections between the trail and trailside communities. This is a major investment, both financially and physically. However, the payoff can be huge. There are countless reports that show a positive impact on retail from installing bicycle lanes on major commercial corridors, and almost no studies that show that bike lanes have had a negative impact. A lot fewer customers drive to stores than many store owners may think. For example, in New York City, the construction of a protected bike lane and other improvements on 9th Avenue led to a 49% increase in retail sales for local businesses, while the rest of Manhattan only saw a 3% increase over the same time period. Bicyclists really are, as we've called them, wallets on wheels. Understanding how riders experience a community is incredibly important. Facilitating a community bike around, like the kind we typically have as part of B3, as Robin mentioned in the intro, really help illuminate issues that cyclists might find to be a deterrent to leaving the existing trail and making their way into your community. It can also be a good way for local residents, businesses, and decision makers to experience their local trail system as if they were visiting cyclists, and to see what the community does well in attracting cyclists and what it could improve upon. And during last year's B3 event, we were up in Glens Falls, and cyclists, we identified signage gaps, potential safety issues, and some alternative routes that would enable riders to access the local business district from the feeder Canal Trail, which connects to the Empire State Trail, and the Warren County Bikeway. We look forward to being able to have the Bike Around event next year, hopefully, cross our fingers, hoping that the pandemic has passed by then. In some instances, communities may need to demonstrate the need and the feasibility of creating safe connections. Now, one great way of getting buy-in from local leaders and from other residents is through a demonstration project that illustrates the value and the functionality of a new bicycle facility. PTNY hosted a demonstration just like this down in Poughkeepsie earlier this year. We used funding from the state governor's traffic safety committee. The demonstration project helped illustrate to area residents and local officials that the space was there for a two-way protected bike lane on the downtown Main Street, and that the community could safely transform their streetscape and enhance connectivity between the Empire State Trail and the city's commercial center. If you want to make it easy for cyclists to travel into and around your community, there should be safe places for them to lock their bikes. Now, this is an opportunity to cultivate a community identity and be creative. Some places have had design contests with local youths to come up with a design for their bike racks. One thing that also helps is if you're a business, have locks available to borrow. That makes it more likely that a cyclist is going to stay and patronize your business. Bicyclists do have specialized equipment needs. They may need basic bike repair equipment, like a pump or a simple repair kit. Now, incorporating bicycle fix-it stations along a route can reduce the need to carry additional tools and provide riders with a sense of security and predictability during journeys of any distance. I know there's a number of these that have been installed along the Empire State Trail, and I've already had to put them into use this summer. You can use creative partnerships to install these tools in your community. In Albany, the public library partnered with the Albany Bicycle Coalition to secure a grant from our local metropolitan planning organization through a traffic safety mini grant program, which funded 3 fix-it stations at different library branches in different parts of the city. Because designing and planning for cyclists requires some kind of financial investment, we encourage members of the business community to reach out to their local officials to determine what collaborative opportunities exist to finance a particular project. This opens up a world of state, federal, and other funding sources. Now, one such source I want to highlight is the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor's Impact Grant Program. I know we have Mona from ECNHC who's joined us this morning. I want to thank her for joining. The impact grants are made to forward-looking organizations who develop and implement creative, place-based projects. Funding is available to not-for-profit 501c3s and municipalities located within the Erie Canalway corridor. Now, other funding sources for trail and bicycle infrastructure funding include New York's consolidated funding application process, through which you can get funding for the local waterfront revitalization program, the recreational trails program, Canal Corp's Canalway grant program that Brian mentioned earlier, and there's more. We have a list of funding programs on our website. We'll send that link out after the event. But we encourage communities to think creatively about where they might be able to find funding. You can even use sources like Kickstarter. I think Natasha is going to talk about that a little bit more during her piece of the presentation. Now, getting cyclists from the trail to your community safely requires the appropriate infrastructure, including wayfinding and bike parking, to ensure that they can conveniently access everything they need. There are a lot of resources for assessing and evaluating which piece of infrastructure, what kinds of infrastructure, are suitable for your community. Reach out to us if you have questions, or we're happy to discuss them during the Q&A period. We encourage you to put any questions you may have into the Q&A box that you can see at the bottom of the screen, or into the chat box. Now, while creating safe connections to your community is important, establishing a supportive bike culture within your community should also be a major consideration.